Let's rise up for the national anthem, please. Nigerians call obey to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind the nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Please, let's be seated. They're doing fantastic. They're engaging us well. You know. Also, we have Jennifer and PC in the house. Very beautiful, lovely woman. She's quite vast. I have Roman Osagele in the house, architect Roman Osagele. A round of applause, please. He's a special architect. He's an architect that is a guru of, he's a data analyst. Let me put it that way. You know, he doesn't talk to you, he talks to you with facts and numbers. So it's always quite engaging. And he's going to deliver us a fantastic Lagos housing. He's going to dish it to us today in full, which is what we need for urban regeneration. We need facts. Where are we coming from? Where are we going? What are the projections? And even for our exhibitors, when you hear these projections, you know, okay, this is the way the architects are thinking. This is what we need to do in 2020, 2025. This is what we expect to have achieved, and then we all can focus and try and achieve our set goals as a team. Also, I have a pharmacist among us. Is she here? Morenike?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome. I don't know if she's. Are you speaking today?
No. Yes.
Well, anyway, she's here and she's been a fantastic addition. Also, my Ghanaian friends. But I don't know how to. This woman is quite dynamic. She's Austrian and she's Ghanaian at the same time. Rosemary Otna. She was the sunshine among the men that sat yesterday. You're welcome, man. Akosuya. A round of applause, please. So, today promises to be very, very interesting. And I'm sure they are all loaded. I saw Sam Obo walking just now. He's going to be the first, he's going to give us the first presentation this morning. So it's quite exciting. A great architect, quite knowledgeable. He was a president of the Royal Society of Canadian Architects. He's practiced in Nigeria, practiced in Canada, practiced in Botswana. So I think it's a privilege to hear him talk this morning. Not only architects, I mean, even product designers, manufacturers. You have a lot to learn. So I look forward to a wonderful time today, and I'm sure we can energetic, dedicated, committed man. Let us give a resounding applause to the chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Lagos State. You now actually are a military personnel. With a resounding applause, I want to invite Rear Admiral Architect Mrs. Itunu Otunu, Fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. She is going to chair this morning session, and I'm sure we all are going to have a very, very lovely time. Tosin.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming again today. We're happy to have our second day of Lagos 9.0 Architecture Regeneration 1. As already stated, We will have a series of product presentations today. We've just recognized Rear Admiral Architect Mrs. Itunu Hautunu, who is a fellow of the Nigerian, sorry ma, who is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. We have Architect Dapo Akitunde, who's just joined us at the high table as well.
So before we move on, I'm very sorry, ma'am. Rear Admiral, I'm so sorry. I heard that she's the very first female Rear Admiral in the whole of West Africa. In the whole of Africa. Thank you. We need to give her a standing ovation. Please. It is worth it. A round of applause. I don't stop until I say stop. You continue. An architect, a female architect. Please. Give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please have your seat. Please have your seat. It's inspiring and it's worth celebrating. Right now we have with us our third Vice President of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, a very, very calm woman, committed to the Institute, a dogged fighter. Don't look at her size and her petiteness. She's huge. It's a pleasure to have you, ma'am. Thank you. They've been here since yesterday. The support has been tremendous. Let us give her a round of applause, please. Architect, please.
The event, Architect Fitzgerald Umar, to please give his opening address for the day. Please join me in welcoming Architect Fitzgerald.
Our guest speakers, friends, and our chair of the session today. It is good to be with you this morning. It's good to welcome you to day 2 of our Lagos Architects Forum. Today is going to be a day of revealing a lot of things, and that's what I've been asking them to tell those people downstairs to come upstairs. Roman is going to speak today. He's going to release a lot of data to us, things that we need to work with in the building industry in Nigeria. Information we really don't have. And it is good to have people like him who dedicate their life, their time to do research into data that we need to work with. And I'm also particularly happy that the students are also here with us today. And Sam Bobo is also going to speak. He is also being part of us. He's also going to reveal some things to us that we need to know. I would like us to pay attention. I would like us to take notes, because tomorrow is going to be the final day of the program, and we're going to put up a communique that we're going to send it to the government and also follow it through. So please, I will implore all of us to, beyond visiting our exhibitors booth, it's important that we also take our time to listen to the lectures we're going to have today. I welcome you all to Lagos Architects Forum Day 2. Thank you.
How the weather conspired against me this morning, so accept my apology. I am, as you've been told, Rear Admiral Itunu Hautunu. That's the pronunciation. I'm also an architect, and I'm proud to be one. I was an architect before I became a Rear Admiral. But it gives me great pleasure this morning to tell you that I became a Rear Admiral because I'm an architect. I happen to have been one of the first of 4 architects who were commissioned into the Nigerian Navy. And If I hadn't been one of the first four, I probably would have made it to this rank. So yes, architecture is why I became a rear admiral. Having said that, I'm not going to say much this morning because there are a lot of people who are eminently qualified to talk about what we need to do about regeneration, which I must tell you happens to be a passion of mine. We have watched a lot of our towns and cities in Nigeria overtaken by what is known as the inner city syndrome. And when that happens, you find that the people start to relocate to the suburbs, and those places that you knew, those of you who are very familiar with Lagos, which I'm sure a lot of the Lagos State architects are, you remember what central Lagos used to be like. Tinubu Square, where they call it Saleko, Onikan, and all those places. You see what has happened. The inner city syndrome has taken over. Those places have lost their allure, they've lost the beauty that they once had. So I was particularly gratified to see that this year, Lagos State architects want to focus on regeneration. I was also happy that I was here yesterday when Bill Chommy talked about what had been done to the village in Canada. I was actually, you know, I was blown away to see the kind of unique solutions that they applied to the problem. One of the things he talked about, which I remember very clearly, was the fact that monies that were supposed to be spread all over the town was concentrated in that area. Now, if anybody from Lagos State is here today listening, please, there is nothing wrong with concentrating resources in building up areas that will yield you greater resources. When you're spread too thin, you don't cover any ground. I'm not going to say you don't cover much ground. The truth is you don't cover any ground. But if you're focused, something else I remember Buchobe talking about yesterday was that it was something that was 10 years in the making. What does that tell us here in Nigeria? It tells us one thing, focus. It tells us a second thing, focus. And it tells us a third thing, focus. I find that as a people, sadly, we lack that. Whatever plans we make must transcend political timetables. They must transcend what personal kingdoms that we think we need to build. Because the truth of the matter is that if you regenerate areas, you actually have better returns on your investment, whether or not you like it. If I may digress a little, now, the third vice president, who happens to be my childhood friend, she did caution me, you know, to keep it short and simple. I want to, but then I am passionate about architecture. I have wanted to be an architect since I was 13, and that's many decades ago. So if you see me talk with so much passion, it is because this is something that I believe in. I'll tell you a story. When I was a young commander, I worked in a place called Moloni Street. For those of you who are familiar with Lagos, it's probably about 15 minutes away from here. But it's also an area where most young people couldn't afford to live. So, so most of us got up at the crack of dawn to get to work on time. But one of my colleagues, who's also retired now, enterprising young man, what he did was to go hire a room in the YWCA. He lived in that room from Monday to Friday, went back home at the weekend to his family, and then the whole cycle started again on Monday. Now, we thought that was clever of him because he saved money on fuel, he saved his car, and he saved his health. Now, Think about it. What if an area like Moloni was regenerated and you have studio apartments for young people, young professionals? Think about the kind of quality of life those young professionals would have. Think about what it would mean to the industries, how much more of their time and energy they can give to the industry. So I want us to think about these things. There's been a lot of talk. Talk is cheap. We have a lot of qualified people coming from all over the world, Austria, Ghana, Canada, the US, come talk to us. Yes, it's good for us to listen to talk, but what are we going to do about the talk? I don't want us to come here next year at LAF 10 and listen to some more talk. I want us to come here next year and have a blueprint of what we're doing. Wonderful people talk to us today. All these young people talk to us today. But next year, and I bet you I'm going to be here next year, and I'm going to hold you, and I know that with all the fellows, all the members, all the able people here today will be able to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please give him a round of applause.
Over from Glasteria. I'm here today to present the electronic glass blind product. I think it's a great opportunity to be in the midst of the architects, people who are very fine in what they do. Right, so today our project, then after the video I give a slide, and after the slide then we'll take questions if there are any.
To bring you the electronic glass blind privacy control subject matter for your homes, offices, hotels, hospitals, showrooms, shopping malls, etc. You can now experience the technical on glass windows, doors, walls, and partitions. Modern privacy control on glass windows that will turn into electronic glass. All the privacy control and material transaction on my left side. I have two block sections electronic pipeline and watch.
So it's like it's doubles as a
Surprise. While on my right, I have two liquid C-stripe electronic glass blind. Watch again. Voila! Electronic glass blind, simply known as EGB, to change state from open no see-through to clear see-through state. The open no see-through state is the privacy state when electricity is cut off from the EGB. So the fear of lack of power supply does not affect electronic glass blind. The clear see-through state is the open state, and that is when electricity is supplied to the EGB to change the glass back to the transparent see-through state. Now, I need some privacy.
saving due to increased natural light. No more patches and blinds. No more dirt and bacterial accumulation. No maintenance. Turn your building and windows to other windows.
Switch to electronic glass blind today to experience modern, smart, energy-saving devices.
Here we made the electronic glass blind. It's made of what you call the PDLC, polymer dispersed liquid crystal. Yeah, glass as a blind, electronic section blinding, smart and intelligent control, privacy control, modern interior design. Electronic glass blind is very inspiring. Modern architectural and interior design has design leans towards sleek minimalistic lines. Often glass walls are featured, but this raises the question of how to maintain the beauty of the clean, almost stark lines without sacrificing privacy. But designers and builders find the answer in smart on-off glass, which not only eliminate the need for traditional curtains, blinds and window covering, also provide privacy and security, reduce energy consumption during the day, and brings excitement to the building. Freedom from design limitations. Constraint free. You can make spaces from glass walls and partitions that are switchable. The wow factor. The visual effect made possible by electronic glass blind technology add an elegance and sophistication in any interior design. So your glasses can turn on off in modern buildings. The product is so flexible that we can create section blinds with the product. So section blinding, we have, like you can see, is synonymous to the regular section blind that we have, but this time it's now electronic. Smart and unique smart sections. Imagine this a window on the future. Modern, instant control with the electronic glass blind. Adaptable. It's adaptable to any form of glass, whether it's a new project or existing glass windows and partitions. It gives you a great ambience. Of course, you can impress your guests and your clients with electronic glass blind interior designs. Clean, modern, clean, and minimalistic. For architects and interior designers, adaptive glass is a dream come true. They no longer have to find a compromise between their vision of clean, minimalistic lines and their clients' comfort. On the contrary, wide window wall becomes an element of the design, which needs no further adornment. In fact, the view itself becomes part of the interior. Easy installation. Is easy to install the electronic glass blind in different installations, like you can see. Hotel rooms, modern office buildings, homes, where you need to be able to control your glass, switching it between clear and opaque. Right, so the technology, like I said, is a PDLC technology, which is a polymer dispersed liquid crystal. What happened is that once there is no electricity, the blind is opaque, you can't see through it, and once there is electricity, it becomes clear. Yes, it comes in different colors. If you visit us at our booth, you'll be able to see all the different, some of the colors that we have. So with electronic glass blind, there is great room for improvement in the use of glass for interior design. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Obi Ezenwa from Skane Nigeria Limited. We are a leading supplier and installer of internal building systems. So very quickly, I'm just going to talk about a few things. One is a quick presentation, then I'd like to show you a practical example of one of our products. So I'll just move on swiftly. So this is our main office in Surulere. As I said, we supply high quality building systems. We've existed since 1982. And just to quickly go through our list of products that we supply. One is suspended ceiling systems, plasterboard systems, and raised access floors. So we represent Armstrong World Industries, which is the leading manufacturer of suspended ceiling systems globally. And we've been the longest serving partner in Africa for over 20 years. Armstrong has over 48 manufacturing plants spread out across the world, and the products comply with best practice standards. The next supplier that we represent here in Nigeria is called Plado from Spain, and the leading producers of plasterboard systems as well. The systems as well comply with the best standards. I'm sorry, I'm just going to run through. We have a stand over here, and you can come to us to see these products, and I can tell you more, because I only have about 10 minutes. A plasterboard, one of the key advantages is one, it's very easy to install, it's very quick to install, it's very lightweight, it's about 5 times lighter than brick for your partitioning, etc. So that can improve the economics of your building. And the next is Kingspan Access Floors. Kingspan is a very large company as well, leading producer of raised access floors globally. And that is what I would like to show you, a quick demonstration of what this is, because I believe most of you will know what suspended ceiling systems are and plasterboard systems. But raised access floor, it would be good to just show you a quick example. So some of the recent projects that we've done some very high-level projects from Dangote to Central Bank. We've currently just started installing at the Dangote Petrochemical and Refining plant in Lekki Free Trade Zone. And some of our customers. These are contact details. So I'll just show you a very quick demonstration of raised access floor. So feel free to stand. If you can't see, very easy to install. Typically 600 mm by 600 mm as well. Typically what you do is prepare the floor, cement floor, coat it, put adhesive on each of these metal points, and then you place the board, and it's easy, basically at 4 points. So similar to suspended ceilings, you can use it to conceal your cables and other services. We live in a world now where we're increasingly using a lot of the internet. We live in a world now where we're increasingly using a lot of data and internet. There's a lot of cabling going into all these residents and commercial buildings. So obviously concealing it under the floor, it's also good for places like data centers, etc. So I hope you appreciate this presentation. Sorry it's been very brief, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of our Public Relations Officer, Architect Choma Wogu Ogbona. Can you please join? Okay, just to let everybody know that we have free Wi-Fi as well for the event. The modem, the name of the wireless connector is, what's the name of the wireless connector? Lagos LAF 2018, and the password today is Lagos in capital letters 9.02. So if anybody wants to log on, we're also available on social media. It's being streamed live as well, the whole event. So I would also like to now call on Regency Overseas to proceed. Please give me a round of applause.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, everyone sitting this morning. My name is Adebayo Overseas, a company that most of us know very well. We've been around for quite some time, but not just another paint manufacturing company. We are the paint manufacturing company. As you can see from the board, we represent two brands. Silka brand, we led within this number of years to have manufactured the basis for some well-known paint manufacturing company in Nigeria before they started their own plant. Paint manufacturing in Nigeria started in 1962. We are also privileged to be in the heart of Lagos. Our factory is just directly beside Nigerian Breweries in Igomu. For what we all know about Lagos State, for us to have a factory there, you know that we've been around for quite some time. We are the exclusive distributor of Jotun paints in Nigeria, like I mentioned. Our product portfolio includes decorative, industrial, flooring, marine, and protective coatings. These are the lines in various portfolio, emulsion silk. We are also a major player in the oil and gas paint and marine paint industry. These are some of the features of our infrastructures within Lagos. We assure you that anytime you pick up any paint from us, within Lagos, transportation is definitely free. We have all other well-equipped laboratory, tinting system, state-of-the-art laboratory. The first product you see there, the multicolor wall coating, up till now, no other paint company has been able to get the technology right except for Regency Overseas. We call it the Seika code. Some of us have used it, and you see it in some of the rooms in major hotels in Nigeria. The satin, the silk finish, the marking paint for factory floor. We are into anything called paint. Our booth is just down there, just directly opposite you once you are coming down, booth A18. Now, these are some of our brands. The Silka Supreme, which is like a budget quality paint, just to meet any budget at all. Then the Silkatex Professional, which are for professionals. You have a major housing estate, you want to also work within your budget, this is what we have designed for that. The Silka Supreme has a superior whiteness compared to every other competitor at that level. Then the Silkatex Professional, for exterior, both interior and exterior, has a very durable quality. Then for the exterior paint, we have the Silka Shield. Of course, we know that the satin is an internal paint. You can't use it outside. The Silka Shield is an exterior super durable quality with 7 years above, low debt quality pickup, algae and fungi resistant. We are also into some of these things, but for the purpose of this forum, we are speaking with architects. These are some of the major things we do in the oil and gas industry. But the flooring also is also something that we can talk about here. Sorry. We also have all these products. These are the Jotun products that are available. For the purpose of this discussion, I will just run through it. Just like I mentioned, our booth is booth A18. You can come down there and we'll be able to have quality discussion. beyond what I am presenting to you. All these are paints that can come out in beautiful colors and lasting durabilities. Now, before I go further, we still have the privilege of having another presentation tomorrow. We will be with you, we'll be able to give you details of paint specification, the cost per square meter, the cost per gallon and everything. I want to know, have you ever wondered why after setting up your building, the architect comes up with a very beautiful drawing, the engineer comes up with a very beautiful building? Why do we paint? Because that will be able to help us to answer the question, which paint to use. Why do we paint? Two basic things why we paint. One, for protection. Two, to beautify the building. We all know what the ladies or the women do after they are dressed up, about to go out. They still take their time, 5-15 minutes, depending on the level of makeup that wants to be applied on the face. Now, the essence of painting is to protect your property. We all know what property is, especially in Lagos and in major metropolis in Nigeria. Property that you have built, you have invested a lot of money on. And we come across people, they say paint is paint. Paint is not paint. And definitely, when I will be speaking with you tomorrow, we'll be able to show you why paint is not paint, why protecting your property is very, very important. Because the cost of painting it in another 1 year or 2 will be higher. So why not do it right the first time? So paint is not paint. Our paint will give your building a very solid protection that will last upward of 5 years and some even up to 15 years. We'll be talking about, then let me just mention this before I leave the floor. This is Steel Master. It's a fireproof protective coating. You apply it on the steel of high-rise building and it's able to protect that property from fire for at least 60 minutes. We have the one for 60 minutes, we have the one for 120 minutes. Fire will not be able to affect the steel structure. At least you have 2 hours or 1 hour, depending on which specification is applied, for you to bring out every of your very important items, or for the fire service to be able to come in and put the fire off. Thank you very much. I will still be with you tomorrow for another 10 minutes of detailed presentation concerning some of these products that will make you understand why you should use Regency overseas when you think of painting. Thank you.
And you can visit their stand
at booth A18, just directly opposite you. I'm looking at our booth here. We welcome you and answer any of your questions. We don't just sell paint, we give you painting solution. Try us once and you will not regret it.
Thank you very much. As you said, paint is not paint. So before we move forward, we just want to remind everyone about the free internet. We are a caring professional body. We also have a company here who are on the right-hand side of the mezzanine, Green Architecture Institute of Canada. He's a highly accomplished Canadian architect, a non-career diplomat, resourceful leader, and 2015 president of the Royal Architects Institute of Canada. He's the first Canadian of African descent to lead one of the oldest and prestigious architecture institutes in North America. He amplifies the ideals of stewardship, excellence with his expansive career, which has lasted over 25 years in the built environment. He commenced his architecture training at the Bendel State University, now Ambrose Ali University, where he obtained his bachelor's degree and topped his class to receive the Best Graduating Architecture Prize in 1992. He earned a Master's of Science degree in Architecture from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria in Nigeria, and later graduated from the University of Alberta with a Master's of Arts, where he was a recipient of the Herbert Marshall McLuhan Graduate Student Prize Award. Can you see where we're going? As an architect, he is respected for his knowledge, scholarship, and commitment to excellence. And he has successfully designed, managed, and led projects and initiatives in both the private and public sectors in North America and beyond. He has served as an adjunct and visiting lecturer at various universities, including University of Calgary, University of Toronto, Carleton University, Ottawa, University of Port Harcourt, Durban University of Technology, and the University of Pretoria in South Africa. Recently named as one of the 150 extraordinary Canadians in 2018, and previously one of 50 most influential Albertans among Premier of Alberta. Sam Odo is the Honorary Consulate for the Republic of Botswana in Canada. A distinguished fellow of the American Institute of Architects and Royal Architecture Institute of Canada. He's a recipient of the 2018 NBCN Professional Excellence Award, 2016 Excellence Magazine Award for Leadership, and 2015 American Institute of Architects Presidential Award. He has a varied background that has enabled him to bring valuable perspective to his role as a principal for architecture at ACOM, one of Fortune magazine's most admired companies. Please join me in welcoming Samuel Ogali Obo to the stand to give his speech. We are very honored to have you here with us.
I'm actually wondering who was that she was introducing. Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the honor of addressing this prestigious audience. And I also have to shout out to my fellow Canadians, Bill Charmick, who was my partner for many years. And still my partner, even though we are in different firms right now, we're still different partners. And one of the projects that I'm going to be presenting today was a project that Bill and I think we had, it's probably one of the best projects we've ever done. It's once in a lifetime kind of project, to be involved in a legislature, kind of project. The other thing also is, I think, a very big shout out and a big round of applause to the Nigerian Institute of Architects Lagos chapter for very marvelous job. Very marvelous job. So the test for me of what good conference and good hosting is actually very simple. It's not necessarily about the lecture and the fact that they sold out all the booths for the first time in the history of LAF 2018. But it's the fact that I have the honor of having my daughter here with me for the first time in Nigeria. And when I start hearing the fact that, Dad, I think you have to go back to Canada alone, I will have to stay behind. That's a good sign of success. So thank you, my daughter, Nura, for all the support. She's my PA, she's my personal assistant, and she just told me that that's not going to be for free, I have to pay. Yeah. So, and then the other thing I just thought I should do, since this is the first time, I'm a very good adherent of Frank Lloyd Wright. For whatever reason, he's a very controversial architect and all that. And as a result of that, I thought I should actually bring a souvenir, which I'm going to be giving to, the chair of the Lagos chapter for a job well done. This is a souvenir from the Frank Lloyd Wright, Foundation, right? That I thought is really befitting for a good job. If there's any questions after, we do have a lot of, information, and maybe keep it light, since I noticed that not only architects, do we have in the audience. So, I'm going to be talking about the regeneration, is a kind of regeneration project, the Alberta Legislature, project. Now, Alberta, the legislature building, of course we know that architecture and politics, they all go hand in hand together, and I'm sure you probably heard what the Rear Admiral did say here. Even though she gives a lot of accolades to architecture, the truth is that architecture and politics go hand in hand, right? Because as architects, right, we live in an environment where sometimes we don't see it as politics, but the way we put an entrance, the way we do things, right, really has, very big influence. So virtually everywhere you see, that's actually a symbol of power, is a symbol of authority. And we have them virtually everywhere, and they are full of messages. The messages that you do have, they are sometimes expressed in different ways, in different manners. You get all sorts of messages. You and I could be looking at, same object, but we get different messages from it that is based on our personal experiences, based on, the kind of things that we went through. And some of these things come in form of expressions. So with these expressions, of course, in schools you have the mathematical kind of expressions, right? Whether it's the quadratic equation and all that, which is foreign and strange to quite a number of people in the audience. But the ones that I really love very much is the facial expression that, often, do, happen. For instance, this was a very classic facial expression after the Speaker of the House, did, touch, Mrs. Obama in a way that, the eyes, a lot of Africans can actually relate, to that. But there's also political expression that is expressed in different, ways, in different manner. Passion, expression of passion. And this is the kind of expression sometimes that we do have when we're frustrated in different things. And architecture is also a type of expression, because I do not have to speak to anyone when you get to a city to actually understand what's the kind of mindset that shaped that community, that society. And that is where I think the architect actually has the privileged, position, that you are shaping the way people see things, the way people, get things done. So this is actually a project that Bill Chummick did, right? Which is actually quite interesting, that we did in the firm. So, yeah, expression actually connotes representation, right? And within this representation, there's a lot of things that is being communicated. We communicate all sorts of things. And it is also, an expression that communicates memory. So when you walk into a place, it reminds you of, there's a reason why heritage is actually very important. Why it's important for us to keep some of the things that define our community and our society, especially the good examples, of all what we have. Where you see some of this expression is after the fall of the Berlin Wall, right? During the reunification of Germany. When the reunification occurred, one of the best expression, where you see the societal value having a very big impact is actually in the architecture of, the Reichstag, right? The architecture of their parliament, the legislature. First and foremost, with German pride, it was really interesting that the architect that was chosen to do that project was a British architect, Norman Foster. And during that, you have a situation where there used to be, I think because this is a screen, the pointer is probably not going to work on it, but you can see the cupola at the top, which was before, it was burnt down, many years ago. And after Norman Foster did the refurbishment and the redesign of the Reichstag, you do have, the glass dome that was used. Now that glass dome wasn't just an accident. It was actually a reflection of the value of the society. And that value came as a result of what happened before the reunification. It is called, the value of transparency, right? Because, East Germany, West Germany, transparency was a problem. The government always use information against you. They monitor virtually everything. So one of the biggest value in the society was transparency. And that transparency reflected itself in the cupola that happened. Where when you get into the cupola, one of the things you see is you actually look down the debating chair, see the legislators actually debating and having things. That in itself created some problems. You also have the double helix spiral, which gives you a very good view of Berlin, right? It's all the concept of transparency that caused that. One of the challenges was it's also created an issue for the legislators, because most times when people come in there and look down, they don't see people sitting. They have to start educating people that legislators don't always spend 24 hours debating, but they go to committees, they have all sorts of, other challenges. Also, when you talk about, representation and all that, a lot of us know about the John Hudson, Sydney Opera House, which is actually a representation of some of the, things that were very important in the Sydney Harbour. And that is, that is the fact that, there's a lot of sailboats, and when John Hudson did this, we need to thank people like Eero Saarinen, for being the person that was behind the selection of this scheme, which everyone was opposed, to for whatever reason. But right now, that is the symbolic representation of Australia, as we all know it. There's also the Santiago Calatravas Low Hemispheric, that he did in Valencia. And this is actually a planetarium. Fortunately, I'm sure, this was not said, but Bill Chomik is actually one of the world experts in planetarium. And that's actually, a planetarium that was done by Santiago Calatrava. And that is a representation. I believe that, that old saying that if you've always done what you've always done, you just get what you've always, nothing changes, for say. So if you want to change something, you have to do things differently. So on this very particular project that I'm going to present in, one of the first things we did was to actually look at, the very simplistic approach that we were going to be taking in approaching the project. And it was actually very simple from project initiation, having workshop with stakeholders, having a very thorough understanding of what the workshop is, coming up with refined alternatives, preferred concept, and what the vision will look like. We have to keep it very simple. Those that have heard about the KISS principle, it always works when you keep things very simple. Now, as simple as this is actually something that is really very, very, very complex, have different layers. Before doing this, I had the opportunity of actually, doing a research with the University of Alberta where we look at the communicative attributes of legislature buildings around the world. And as part of that, we realized that legislature buildings are definitely a symbol of government, it's a symbol of power, it contributes to shaping our lives on a daily basis. And it also communicates things. So, using the case study of the Alberta legislature buildings, there's a whole lot, that was, that we saw in terms of what does this building, mean. The character-defining elements of this building is something that has shaped, the lives of people in Edmonton, which is the capital of Alberta. And as a result of that, it was very important that this is actually the shining project, on the legislature precinct, which needed to be regenerated, for whatever reason. I'll skip through all the character-defining elements that shaped some of the things, because these are aspects of what, brought about the findings, right, that influenced the vision, that we eventually created. So the findings, as part of, some of those communication aspects of it, keeping it light, not necessarily going through all the technical part, is the fact that this is actually a monument, on itself for communication. They are also, temple. Marshall McLuhan, who I was actually very fortunate to win his prize at the University of Alberta, was what we call the father of modern communication. Interestingly, was born in Edmonton, where I live, and he influenced the media as we know it today around the world. This is way back in the 60s. So as a father of communication, he's known for one thing: the medium is the message. Now, do we see architecture as a medium? One of the findings in some of the research that has been done is architecture is actually a medium of communication. Without going through the details of all that, I will skip that, but one thing to note is legislature buildings serve as civic churches, right? And they are the temple of democracy. What you have in Abuja, in Washington, D.C., that is actually your temple of democracy that has to be sacred, has to be, has to be seen as a place that we have to cherish and respect. So, So what did we do with all the findings? I skipped a lot of the findings, but what did we do with it? We had to establish guiding principle, right? To guide the redevelopment of the legislature precinct. And in doing so, we came up with all the principles, that the people, whether it's, economic empowerment of the people or the residents, that are in there, should be part of, the whole scheme. The other part is also to stimulate a very high level of activity on the site. A young girl who is a very famous Danish architect and planner always says it this way. Most times we build things and we assume people are going to come and use it, but that never works. You have to understand the people first. No, you have to understand the people first. Then you look at the space, how the people, how they behave, the culture, how they do things, and the space. And from the space, you can now do a building that was built that was completed in 1912. And during that time, your access to this building was based on invitation. It was, you should be invited in there to meet with the Queen. The Queen of England is also the Queen of Canada, who is actually the head of government. You're only invited. So when the value of the society changed into being open, right? Transparency, openness, and access to government was important. How do you make a building such as this, that is very masculine in nature, right? To be welcoming? Most people see it and say, hey, I don't belong here, I don't have to be seen in there, but how do you do that? Those are some of the things. We needed to promote interaction with the surroundings, which is connectivity. This building is actually surrounded by quite a number of residential, buildings. I actually live just one block away from this building, so it was also very important to me personally as to what we do, on this project. So the legislature ground, as you know, Edmonton is actually the coldest, city that has a population of more than 1 million in the world. The northernmost, city in the world that has a population. So it means that we have quite a long winter season, right? And we do not shy away from the winter season. It doesn't matter whether the temperature is -20 or -25. It is not an excuse to be late. It is not an excuse to cancel school. It is not an excuse to, to stop flights from going. It doesn't matter whether it's -20 or whether it snows. Things have to move because it is Edmonton in Canada. So we thought that was very important to put in the legislature grant, and it also has to be welcoming to everyone, all generations. So one of the things we did was to do some benchmarking, which we did, have three. We had a lot of fun doing. So for those that know what that is, that's at the Millennium Plaza in Chicago, and that's actually we were looking at some of the precedent. Before the topic, I think let me talk about the importance of benchmarking. On one of the projects, that we were doing, there was a time that we were just arguing about, changing windows and, what the clients, need and what we think the client needs or what the project needs. Most time you have a lot of argument, and I don't think that, Lagos is excluded from this kind of, a reaction and interaction with clients where, you are giving them a space, that is required. They want something smaller because they think that they can save cost. What we find out is benchmarking is actually a very important tool to change the kind of conversations that you do have with clients. Because sometimes when you tell them things, right, what you're saying to them and what they're saying to you, you're using the same words, but you're talking about totally different things. I don't know if it's happened to anyone here, but I think that's usually our experience. So when we did the benchmarking, right, when we did the benchmarking studies, this is actually looking at how public art can be used to change and activate a space. For those that have had the opportunity of being in Chicago, for instance, that's artwork by Amir Kapoor is actually very, 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 very attractive. We also did quite a number of Canadian sites in terms of benchmarking, taking a look at the Ottawa, the Manitoba legislature and the Quebec City. Quite a number of interesting things. Some of the Canadian benchmarking was something that the team, we're working with, worked on.
but we did practically visit quite a number of North American sites. What you cannot see there is actually, Bill Chomik on the right-hand side. I'm directly behind, there. And we have Jim Jacobs, who is one of our landscape architects from Sasaki in San Francisco that was part of it. So on this particular day, it was kind of very interesting when we got to Washington, D.C. That was the day Obama was with the building was really very important. So we set out, the processes, doing all our analysis, framework, and all what have you. And we looked at the programming. I'm going to skip through this aspect because they're really very technical and I really don't want to bore you all. But if we have any question, we'll look at it. That's actually the precinct, in entirety. But it was based on the fact in there. Sorry, I didn't know there's touch screen. The legislature building is just around there. That's kind of like the center. You have all sorts of buildings and all sorts of things there that do not befit that ground as, what we have. So we did all the historical studies, right? Looking at all the history and all the things that happened on that site and why it's actually very important. And we also look at, all the style. We did, quite a number of, building condition reports, looking at all what have you. By the way, the report at the end of the master planning, we had almost, 5 volumes of documents and history and documentation, speaking with the former premier and everyone, in there. So I'm going to just skip through all this. This is just all the research and analysis that we did in terms of activating, the site and also looking at growth projections for office spaces and in terms of, space needs, from 2009 up to 2019. And, so those were the things that actually influenced what we needed to include in the model that we had, in the building. So, of course, doing all the analysis and respecting the dome and looking at the axis and looking at virtually everything that was required was really quite, interesting. At the end of the day, we actually look at ways of improving the views because the legislature dome is actually one of the most important, aspect of it. What do we do in activating it and, coming, against, some of the aspects, that we actually studied and saw that were barriers, in welcoming, people to the site. And we looked at different, framework, looking at the classical, the urban streets, the urban plaza, and the big park. Personally, my personal, preference was to look at the big park concept because that was the only way you could neutralize the impact and the effect of, having a very masculine building that is not welcoming at all, and at the same time making it welcoming, to people. So, did all the modeling and all the aspect of what will make, that concept work. So based on that, we created, a couple of options. One was the provincial ribbon, concept, and then the oasis. So we looked at the streetscape, looked at virtually everything. So this is, one of the preliminary options and preliminary concept that we created. At the end of the day, while we were doing this, we got appointed by the government of Alberta, which is actually one of the best projects we ever did. Bill and I had a lot of fun on it. Was to actually do a museum project, just right south of the legislature, there. So depending on if there is time, it's probably a presentation that we can actually do, just looking at what we did with the museum, project, in there. So I'll skip all the analysis, right, and then we go straight right on to why we call